If we're going to be a tech-wise family, we have to be an honest family. And that's honesty inside our family unit, but also honesty here as a church family. So what better way to get honesty than to bring your own child up here and have them maybe speak some truth to what we're doing.
My name's Hudson King. I am 9 years old and I go to Woods.
Okay. So, Hudson, what's your favorite thing to do?
Probably to play baseball or watch baseball.
And in the mornings, what do you do? Like, you talking about watch baseball? Go ahead and tell them what you do.
I get up every morning at 6 a.m. or 5:45 to get up and watch the Braves recap and see if they win or not.
Then you do breakfast, you get dressed,
yeah.
and then what do you do?
I basically go outside and practice a little before school. And then my dad calls me in, and then I get in the car and we go off to school. If I don't do that, I'm normally very, very sleepy all day long.
All right, who uses their phone more, mom or dad?
I did not pre-approve these questions. This is not scripted.
I think Mom.
And why do you say that? Why do you think that?
Because Daddy teaches a lot, and so he doesn't normally use his phone that often.
Because I use my computer more?
Yes.
So if you were to say, who uses their computer and phone more, like who uses the technology more, mom or your dad?
I think Daddy, because he has to use it to make screens.
Let's talk about television and tablets, right? So grandparents are in town this weekend. Do you use your phone to play games more when grandparents are here?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Kind of the rules change a little
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
bit? Yeah. So, one that I notice is that, we'll tend to, they won't necessarily ask us for their phones now anymore. But as soon as grandparents are like, can I use your phone? Right? Yeah. Is that right?
Actually, we don't even ask them. They just say, do you want to?
Yeah. So, there you go. So let's talk about TV. So let's just take a day of the week. So we'll just say Wednesday, right? How much time do you think you watch TV in a day?
Well, I watched the recap. Those are about 5 minutes. But then I watch maybe one episode that my brother chooses, and so that's probably about 30 minutes. Then I have to get ready to go to school, and unless it's on Friday, I don't watch hardly any technology. But then when I get home, I have guitar, so I have to go to my guitar lesson, and then now it's about 4:30 before I get home, and then we'll eat, and then maybe we'll watch an Andy Griffith before we go to bed, and then we'll watch one of those.
Yeah, so Andy Griffith is our favorite family gathering. Like, we're all going to watch TV together. We go to Andy Griffith because it's one that we all
Nobody argues about it.
Yeah, we always enjoy that one. So, all right. So, of technology that your friends have or other things, what's something that you wish you had?
Everybody says the Nintendo Switch is really good, but I don't see why it would be that good. I mean, I don't use video games that much because I just don't use them. But I don't see why you use one. I don't think I really want any different technology, really.
Well, of all the technology that we have, remember we put it all on the table and we looked
yeah.
at it. Right? What's the thing that you think we should give up as a family?
I think I think we should just get a regular remote, because the Alexa remote is we asked it yesterday, we asked it 6 different things. It knew 0 of them. So.
So we have Alexa TV, like a Fire TV. So it's like Alexa empowered remote. So you just ask it what you want to go to.
We asked it 6 different things about how to get to the North Carolina-South Carolina game. We finally found it just by scrolling through.
Well, thank you very much. That's really appreciate it. So. Good job. Haley is a first year at UNC, and for those who we can't say they're freshmen. So Haley is a first year. This is also her second Sunday at the Bible church. So putting up here in front of us. So she came to our class in the second hour the last time, and this is a topic that she's very passionate about. So Haley, tell us a little bit about where you're from, and then maybe like what might be different about you than other freshmen starting
Okay.
agency.
I'm from Tobaccoville, which is like, it's next to Winston-Salem. It's a few minutes outside of that. We didn't really have much technology use when I was as a child. When I was 16, my mom, our rural family rule is when you're 16 you get a phone because you're driving to your community college classes, and it's just really important to have a way to communicate on the road and stuff. So I got a smartphone then, but I never got social media. I got Instagram like 2 months ago. I had a social media Facebook account for my business page, or for my business, which was good, but I didn't really use it personally at all. We had a computer, one computer I have 4 younger siblings, and we're all homeschooled. So we have a lot of online classes, and it's really hard to all schedule to use one computer. So we actually have every semester we print off a chart, and we each get like certain blocks of the day to use it. It's very specific, and if you don't get to use your block, if you're gone, you missed out on your time to use it for the day. So that was really challenging and really annoying. I was like, Mom, can I just now I have my own computer. I'm like, I wish I had this like 4 years ago. This would have made my life so much easier. Yeah, we watch a decent amount of TV in the evenings. We'll watch Andy Griffith a lot. We did that a lot. We did all the Little House on the Prairie. Those were my favorite. And we just started watching Downton Abbey. So we'll watch like an episode or two, like 3 or 4 times a week, I guess, at night. Just all as a family. We never watch TV alone. That's like our rule. But none of my other siblings have phones. Well, one of them does. She just turned 16, so she just got one. But we don't use no social media stuff or anything.
So you said you had a phone, you had a smartphone, like an Apple phone, right?
Yeah.
What apps do you have on it, or did you have it?
I hated apps, and I like being super clean in my phone, like how it's organized. So I deleted everything, including like my health app. I think I had messages, FaceTime, the clock, maps, like nothing. I didn't have any apps. Then like a cam scanner for school, but I didn't have any kind of apps. So
you had the Bible app.
I think so, yeah.
I think you told me that. And so, do you use text messaging?
Yeah, I did. My cousin, she lives in Raleigh. She is one of my best friends ever. And so we text, we texted a good amount a day, maybe 20 minutes a day. And well, FaceTime is my favorite. So I FaceTime people all the time. I absolutely loved FaceTime. So we would FaceTime probably an hour a day. And then we text, off and on a little bit throughout the day.
So you would choose FaceTime over text
Oh, yes.
messaging?
I love FaceTime. I do not like to text. After FaceTiming I hate texting. But I can use it if I can't FaceTime in the moment. But yeah, I definitely love that.
So were there things that you feel like as a teenager that you missed out on because of your not being connected with technology?
I think I missed out on, since I was homeschooled, I didn't have a big community. So our homeschooling community in Winston-Salem is pretty large, but I only got to see people like once or twice a week when I went to my classes. And I feel like that was really hard because my friends would all plan stuff, and I always missed out on that because I never knew about it because I only had email. No one of my friends emailed. And my mom was so busy that she couldn't drive me to different social events, even if we had known about them. So I did feel like I missed out a lot in that aspect of it. But I also think that it encouraged us to, me to be friends with my siblings. My siblings right now are my best friends. And I was so sad to leave them. I cried for so long when we left for college. So I think that encouraged more relationships inside the family, which was good, but it was also kind of isolating.
So now that you're out of the house, at least you've moved to college, thinking back on that, would you do things differently? Would you change anything about the way your parents had kind of done that?
I don't think I would. I honestly feel like it was a good balance. I think not having, say, Instagram or something, they're not inherently bad. I don't feel like smartphones are inherently bad. I think it's just how you use them in your relationship with them, which can be hurtful, I guess. And I feel like I grew up with a good relationship with it, and my parents were good models of that. So I think that looking back, I wish I had a computer. But other than that, I think I like how I grew up because I can tell like talk. I'm not really good friends with any of my peers. That's why my best friend is my cousin and my siblings, because literally you can't have conversations with them. I try to have a deep conversation with somebody in my dorm or whatever, and they don't look you in the eye. They only talk about themselves. They don't ask you reciprocate questions, and it's like, you're so focused. Like, can't you, I don't know, come out of your little bubble and like have like a meaningful conversation? Yeah. So I don't know, I like talking to adults better than children, because it just seems they're so like disconnected and not present.
I think you were talking to Amy and you mentioned something about like being in the cafeteria at school and kind of.
Yes, so I was in the cafeteria I think a couple days ago. Well, this happened yesterday too. And I didn't have anyone to eat lunch with. So I was like looking around, seeing there are these big tables and you just sit down wherever you want. I was looking around to see if there was like anybody, and everybody was on their phone. And I was like, gosh, I can't have a conversation now because everybody's on their phone. I'm gonna be like, hey. So I actually took a picture of everybody. I was like, this is really funny. Everybody's on their phone. So I ate lunch alone, but.
Well, there's a lot of parents in here. If you could say something to your parents or to these parents, is there something that you may want to like? You know?
I think don't let your kids like take advantage of you. Be very firm and be like, no, you're not having a phone and you're not getting this, and they will survive. I think using it as like a babysitter, while it can be convenient, is not, I don't know. Just force them to go play outside or something. Those are my best memories, were playing outside with my siblings. So yeah, don't let your kids, you know, manipulate. Now, I don't know what it's like to be a parent, but I imagine that there's like a lot of pressure to get apps and social media and stuff like that. And so I would just encourage that it's not the end of the world if they don't have that, and they will survive.
So we'll let you ask one or two questions. Does anybody have a question for Haley that they want to ask her?
So now that you've got an Instagram account, well, actually, why did you get an Instagram account?
Well, all my friends were like, Haley, we wish you had Instagram and all this stuff. And so I was like, you know what, why not? And my mom was like, you can get it if you want. I trust you with it, whatever you want. You can get whatever, you know, social media you want. You're fine. So I tried it. I downloaded it when I was with my friends one time. And it's okay, but it's just like, I look at it maybe once or twice a day. It's not, I don't have many friends or anything, but followers, I guess that's what it's called. So I'm not like addicted to it or anything.
Did you keep your account private?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We got time for both.
So I imagine like the campus environment in your classes, like it would expect you to have certain amounts of technology and social media
Yeah.
to you can perform in class. So, or do you feel left behind, or you ever lost? How do you catch up?
Well, one of my classes, they have like a Facebook group. So I do have Facebook because I had to make a personal account for my business account. I never use it, but I like signed up for that. And then they're definitely like check-in things and pull things you have to do in class. So I did download those apps. And I have a phone. It's not like I don't use it. I use it a good amount. But I just think what you use it for is really important. Like if you're using it for work, now I know not all, like this is not true for every situation, but like I think it's fine to use for if it's helpful. And that's the purpose of technology, is to be as like a convenience tool. So I think if you're using it in that way, it's not bad.
But you don't feel like you've had a handicap or hindrance coming to college?
No, I think I've been fine.
So you feel comfortable once you download the thing and then using it? You just
Yeah.
turn it up.
Although, like, I had to get Snapchat because all my people were trying to make economic group classes or something like that to study in. And I didn't know how to add people and figure that out, so I was a little bit lost in that, but someone taught me.
You've got like a young, fresh brain, so it's easy to learn.
Yeah.
All right, we'll take one more question here.
So, thank you for this, for talking with us about this.
Yeah.
Our kids are younger. Several more years, we have one that's your age, trying to homeschool things as well. Are you feeling pressure that like you need to change to be in like social circles with these other friends and classmates now? Are you feeling like, gosh, I need to be on texting more or on the phone just to fit in more? Like, what does that feel like to you?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. Looking back, I'm actually like, I hate to say this, but I'm kind of proud of like how I'm very strong in my self-identity. Like I don't need other people to determine. Literally, I don't wear shoes most of the time, and that's just something I like, and I don't care what people think about me. So I know that's really hard to say, but my mom is like, you're great in this aspect. Like I'm not conforming at all to any social circles or anything. There is kind of a little bit of pressure to be, like, if you're just sitting there and everyone's on their phone, it's like, well, what am I gonna do? My only option is be on my phone. I could read a book or something, but so I feel like it's kind of like an encouragement to see like everyone else is doing it. It's encouraging me to do it too, but I don't feel like it's necessarily pressuring, and I've always been like kind of proud that I don't use it a ton. So, and just that I'm kind of different in that aspect. So.
So thank you very much.
Yeah,
We appreciate
of course.
Mariah has a different perspective, and so why don't you tell us a little bit about you and your family and kind of maybe your thoughts around technology in your home.
I have 3 boys, so I feel like that kind of just says it all. They are 9, 13, and 15, and homeschooled them all up to a point. The older 2 are out, and the youngest one is still at home.
So tell us, what are the ages of your kids?
9, 13, and 15.
9, 13, and 15. Mm-hmm. And do they have access to a cell phone or a smartphone like that?
The older 2 just at Christmas got iPod touches, so it's basically everything except the phone part.
And
Really.
do you let them connect to the internet at home?
They can do they don't have any data, so they're Wi-Fi dependent. So they're the little boys who are always like scrambling around trying to hook up to networks.
And so what kind of apps or things do they do on those devices?
It depends on the kid, actually. One kid is very game driven and loves to play games, and it's really hard to get him to stop. And the other one, and some of you might know, is very chatty and loves to either use FaceTime or texting to just constantly stay in touch with his friends. And the other one is he just likes to play games when he's allowed. So.
And do you have any set limits? Are there like set rules, like you have an hour a day or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's fluctuated over the years. Right now, like they all get some video game time at the end. Well, the youngest one, because he's homeschooled and his stuff is clearly done at a reasonable time and he has still time to play, gets time during the week. It all kind of works out where they get, I think it's like 5 hours of video game time for the week. And but the older 2 basically do it Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Because I found that when they would come home from school and sometimes they have homework, sometimes they don't, and it's always in that sort of like pre-dinner, dinner time, and then they're finishing up, and then we're running into dinner, and then it's, everybody's kind of going, getting ready for bed and moving on. We tend to do things later. It just felt like it was interrupting our kind of evening family time if they also had an hour each, if they wanted to do the same thing but at different times. They would have to wait for each other, and then it becomes a 2-hour block, and I was like, this interrupts our family time. So
you've tried to avoid the I'm entitled to an hour a day.
Right. Yeah, so we shoved all of theirs to the weekend. Yeah. So
we had something like that with our kids with a coat where we said we're on vacation, you can have a soft drink or something. Well, they interpreted that like every day they were entitled to a soft drink on vacation, right? And so it's like trying to be.
Yes, they're very much like, oh, but I haven't done, like today we're going to actually go out to a friend's house at the lake and spend, and then they're all going to be like, but when do I get my hour or my 2 hours? I'm like, probably not today, but they think that it needs to happen for sure.
So you told me a story about the time when you had to limit your child's use of the Bible app.
Yeah.
Which sounds so counterproductive. Okay, so tell us a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so I realized, so with these iPods, I go on screen time periodically and kind of see where they are spending their screen time. And that is helpful because I can realize, oh, that kid was on New York Times for 3.5 hours, right? So then I'm like, we're going to drop that down to a 10-minute limit because really you can read the news in 10 minutes and move on. But they have the tendency, if there's not a set limit in place, to just keep going if they're not paying attention, if we're not paying attention. So I can kind of look and track and say, okay, we're going to knock that one down. So one time I realized one of my kids, who's actually pretty good at fessing up when he sees a code, he'll just say, Mom, I saw the code, you need to change it. But this time he didn't. This time he decided to work in some, and this will give him some Minecraft time for 6 hours. And because he said he took the limit off altogether. And so when I found it, I was like, okay, let me like knock this down. So we fixed that. And then I was like, oh, but at least last night before bed, he was on a Bible app for an hour and a half. And then I was like, that's real. No, this is Seth we're talking about. He was not. How did that work out? Like, I was like, these things do not compute. So I like pulled up the app and it came up like right to where he had left off. And he was watching The Office through the Bible app. So there's
a loophole.
Yeah.
So of which I know the CEO of the Bible app, and so I'm going to give him a call about this
Right?
loophole.
Please do. Yeah. So I was like, and we've certainly come at his age. At our family we like The Office, and he has permission to watch it, but just not when he's supposed to be going to bed. And so I was like, interesting. And it's they have their devotions and they have video clips, and if you click them in the right places, you can just pull up YouTube and then search YouTube for whatever you want. And so I was telling my husband, I'm like, I hate technology right now, because I was like, it's the Bible app, and yet they don't have internet access on their iPods. Like, they can't pull up Safari or anything like that. But we've run into this several times where certain apps that they have then open up and give them access to the things we didn't actually give them access to. And that's very frustrating as a parent who's trying to teach their kids, and clearly my kids don't have enough self-control in certain areas, and we've certainly run into content issues, but it's like, help me.
One of the things we're going to talk about in the class moves on is about some of the technical things that we can use to help us. But as you can see, there's more to this. It's not about, okay, I'm just going to put this filter on and we're going to be safe. Right? There's a lot to staying engaged and involved, and having it be a conversation. And I think that's something we've seen.
Yeah.
So I think you just kind of mentioned that our children are not prepared to make a lot of these decisions. They may not be mature enough in this situation. Do you think they're ever going to get to that point? Do you think there's a point where you're going to be able to kind of step away and let it, or do you think you're going to is there an age until they leave the house? Do you think you're going to really have to still be engaged here?
I think it probably depends on the kid. But yeah, I think, even adults struggle, right? And we talk about that too as parents. And so we're just trying to talk to them and kind of going, what you were saying about what do we need this technology for? Like my kids, my oldest went into high school without any kind of device to take along with him. And so of course he was definitely the minority. And I was like, but why do we need to give this to you? What do you need it for? Everywhere you go, somebody has a phone, or you're, at an event that has a school phone, or, you can get in touch with us. It's not a safety thing. And I've also tried to pull back and be like, I'm a kid of the, the 70s, 80s. My parents didn't know where I was half the time, and it worked out just fine. But I don't need to have constant tabs on my kids for them to be safe. That's sort of a false sense of security in my mind. And so I'm like, I don't need to know where you are. And so I don't know, just why do I need to give this to you? What purpose does it serve us and our family? And so we've tried to have that as our kind of guiding principle. We try to teach them that, and the apps they use and the games they want to play and that sort of thing too. What purpose is this serving you? How does spending time doing this help you or hurt you? And your relationships with people in our family time together, because I'm very aware of the fact that we're a family of 5 for a very limited time. And so part of me is once you're out, you can just do whatever, do whatever you want. Hopefully they won't, but yeah, so I don't know. We'll see. I can report back in a few years and tell you how it goes.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Sure.
A question about modeling, how do we model this for our kids, I think is really important. And deeper than just modeling it is our own heart, and where are we on this? So there's a photojournalist and artist, I think Eric Pickergill, And he has this everyday life portrait of which he has removed the devices from the pictures. And somehow when I see it, I see my own family and situation. And maybe there are times when I'm spending more time looking at a device instead of focusing on my spouse. But it's not just my spouse. I also miss opportunities with friends. I hope they're looking at YouTube to figure out how to light a charcoal grill that doesn't just have a simple push button start. Right? Yeah. But it's not just men. Women do it too. And then our kids see that. Our kids, why would we expect them to act any differently? And then if we're modeling this, and I think if that journalist, if Eric would have been in our home, he might have been able to capture some of the very same moments that I see here. Right? So we have to focus on ourself first. I think we need to understand who we are, what are our limitations, what are our tendencies, what are our addictions. But deeper than what are our actions are, what is the heart? What is the heart issue? So Jay talks a lot about someone has a situation that becomes public, they have an outburst or something like that, and that's what we see and that's what we know. But ultimately, there's a much deeper issue, and it's a heart issue with your relationship with God, right? And so, how do we find what that is? What do we do to do that, so that we can not just model this because we want what is best for our family, but we can model it because that's what we're doing to worship God and to be a better servant of Him, and our children see that, and ultimately they follow and act the same, right? So one of the things I think it's important for us to understand is that the theology behind it and that the Bible does give us direction on this. And as I mentioned, there were lots of verses we could go to. Last week, we're going to focus on Exodus 31. Okay, so if you can open up your Bibles to Exodus 31. So, it used to be that we would go open a dictionary to define a term. Now we ask Google or Alexa for a term. So here's the screenshot from Google, which I'm sure comes from Webster. What is technology? The application of scientific knowledge for practical purposes, especially in industry. Okay, so let's break this down. The application of knowledge for a practical purpose. Okay, so we figured out something, we created a tool to solve that problem, and it produces something for us. So technology in its simplest form is essentially a tool, right? So if we think about the definition in that way, how can it really be sinful? Right? How can technology be a problem? Right? It's just a tool to help us do a job. Right? So here, good Baptist quote here as you read it. One must be reminded that no matter how commonplace or advanced the technology, it is the way in which that technology is applied that makes it sinful or not. The same car that carries someone to a bar can also carry him to church. And the same internet that can deliver pornographic images can also deliver the gospel. Okay. I think that is very important for us to consider and think about. That technology in itself is not bad. And we have lots of references where God has provided and given us technology. He's given us the ability to create and to think and to grow and to create new things. But there's a balance that comes with that. So first I'm going to talk about some of the negative examples that the Bible references. I'm going to give some positive examples, and we're going to really dig in to the passage in Exodus 31. So Isaiah 44, talking about a craftsman who has made and crafted and created and made his own bronze idol. And he finishes it, and he looks at it, and he's like, this is an amazing piece of work. And then he falls down on his knees, and he worships it. Does that make any sense? Right? It's something you created that now you are worshiping. And when I read that passage, I think, well, that's dumb. But that's what we do. Right? We as a society, or even me as an individual, will create something and be so in awe of what I have created that we go to that worship opportunity, right? We were created to worship, and sometimes we don't worship the God that created it. We worship our own creations. Okay. Sometimes pride can really be in there. In Daniel 4, King Nebuchadnezzar wanting and showing how great their society was and all the great things that King Nebuchadnezzar could do. Okay. Genesis 11, okay, the Babylonians, right, building up a tower so that they could make their name great. Okay. What amazing thing could they do, right? It was about them and their own selfish pride. They wanted to be like God. We also have positive examples that the Bible gives us. God instructed Noah to build an ark. So we're still keeping that very generic frame of what is technology. Technology is taking knowledge and putting it into a practical form. That ark was a very important tool, right? So we know Noah built an ark. He commanded Moses to build the tabernacle and gave him great detailed instructions, which we're going to talk about. And then God praised David for his desire to build a temple. So there's nothing wrong with wanting to build things and actually build amazing and great things, right? To do them well, okay? And God enjoys great creations. In Jeremiah, he actually praises the creation right before he then criticizes him for it. And we could get into that one as well. But in Genesis 4:22, we have the first reference of tools like an ox and a plow, or an axe, not an ox. An axe is mentioned, plow. But there's 47 other references in the Old Testament about specific tools that were built. So there's nothing wrong inherently in the technology, but how we use it. So let's go to Exodus 31. And because I stumbled over the name so horribly in the first version of this, I'm asking Jeff if he wouldn't mind reading the chapter for us, and we can laugh at him if he says so.
No pressure.
Chapter 31. The Lord said to Moses, See, I have called by my name Bezalel the son of Uri, son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah, and I have filled him with the Spirit of God, with ability and intelligence, with knowledge and all craftsmanship, to devise artistic designs, to work in gold, silver, and bronze, in cutting stones for setting, and in carving wood, to work in every craft. And behold, I have appointed with him Aholiab, the son of Ahisamach, of the tribe of Dan. And I have given to all able men ability, that they may make all that I have commanded you, the tent of meeting, and the ark of the testimony, and the mercy seat that is on it, and all the furnishings of the tent, the table and its utensils, and the pure lampstand with all its utensils, and the altar of incense, and the altar of burnt offering with all its utensils, and the basin and its stand, and the finely worked garments, the holy garments for Aaron the priest, and the garments of his sons for their service as priests, and the anointing oil, and the fragrant incense for the holy place. According to all that I have commanded you, they shall do. And the Lord said to Moses, You are to speak to the people of Israel, and say, Above all you shall keep my Sabbaths, for this is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that you may know that I, the Lord, sanctify you. You shall keep the Sabbath, because it is holy for you.
God gave Moses some very specific instructions, some physical things that needed to be created, but he empowered the men to do the work. He's filled them with the Spirit of God and wisdom and understanding and knowledge and in all manner of craftsmanship or workmanship, right? So God has empowered and given this great gift of technology, or the ability to create, right? And then a list of things that needed to be done. Since I've given you all these abilities, now you need to go make these things, right? So a lot of work that needed to come along with that, right? So as they're working on the tabernacle, he then, kind of goes into some details of what needs to be done, and then he comes to verse 12, right? In verse 12, and the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak also to the children of Israel, saying, Surely my Sabbath you shall keep, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that you may know that I am the Lord who sanctifies you. Okay. So we see work and rest. We see that throughout the Bible. The Sabbath was given to us for a couple of purposes. One was for rest, and the other for worship, to know who God is and to give him his glory, and to take that time to worship. So I don't think it was by chance that these two passages are together. This is one speaking from God to Moses, where he lays out all of the things that he has provided and says, you have a lot of work to do, but don't forget the Sabbath. Not only don't forget it, it's a command. Keep the Sabbath. Keep it so that you remember who I am. You're not focused on yourself and doing all these things for your glory, but it is for God's glory.
I'm really struck through the interviews and also this passage that a lot of what was discussed is, we need ourselves and our kids to be out and be active, to be healthy, learn to entertain yourselves, socialize in a better way. There's this feeling that there's something very good for everybody in having some self-control in this area. And to me, that's kind of the common grace. And we're talking about the Sabbath, and you said there's two reasons. One is for rest, and one is to worship. And I kind of feel like, if you work 7 days a week, you're going to get tired, whether you're a follower of Christ or not. And so there's kind of there's good there, but it's more of a practical, common kind of reason. But then on the flip side, there's the spiritual. It's not necessarily so practical, but it's the worship of God on the Sabbath. And it's the limit these things, not just because you'll be healthier, but because you'll spend more time with God, you'll relate with God. There's kind of a two-handed thing in both of these issues.
It's really easy for me to put my motivation in a worldly reason.
Exactly.
Okay? I want my children to do well in school. I want them to be well-rounded. I want them to be good citizens. And therefore, I don't think that spending all their time on a screen is in that best interest. And so one reason I might want to limit this is because just for the good of making a good, kind of bringing up a good person. There are times I don't let my kids have a phone because all the other parents who are judging me because my child has a phone. That is a selfish reason for maybe doing a good thing, okay? But it is not the right motivation. Where we should be focused here is what we said last week about what is our purpose, right? Our purpose is to serve and worship God, to make wise, courageous children for parents, right? So that they will make wise and courageous decisions, right? And so if we're focused on that, that changes our whole reason for wanting to do this. So if I'm distracted by social media, I'm not worshiping, I'm not making wise decisions, right? If I'm distracted by my screen and I just use that to escape, well, what is that fundamental issue I'm escaping from that I need to work on so that I can ultimately lead my children to be better, because I am trying to be a better servant of God. Right? So I think we can't get past, what's the motivation, right? The real motivation, the heart motivation. Good. So to sum it up, in Exodus 31, we were called by name. We were given a design. We're given the ability to all the able men here. And it was what we were commanded to do, to keep the Sabbath, right? To keep in worship and things. Okay. So technology is this gift from God. The ability to create and use and to implement knowledge into useful purpose. But we must keep a limit on it and be focused on the right reasons that we're going to keep that limit. Right? What I want you to do is you're going to turn on your screen time. I've been doing this for a few weeks now, and this is about identifying the actual data, right? Like what is really going on Okay, luckily I didn't do this. I didn't take the screenshot when I started, because it is, and actually, like, knowledge is power. Like, knowing and seeing it has gotten much better at where it was. So when I started, it was several hours on social media, and I decided, whoa, that's too much. And so I went ahead, when I did this to set up the monitoring, I also set up limits, and I set my social media, I put all the social media together, and I said all of those together I can't spend more than an hour on, okay? And the first several days, I would hit my limit, and it just cut me off. Now you can always override it, but it would cut me off. But then now, over time, I'm not hitting my limit. Right, and so that's a really interesting thing that I just, out of habit now, the habit is that I don't always check it. Right.
So how technologically savvy do you have to be to do this?
So it's not too difficult. If you have an iPhone, you can go to the settings. You can do this right now if you want. I can walk you through it. On your flip phone. Yeah. Sorry, your flip phone doesn't have it. So, So you're going to go to your settings, and in the second section of your settings, you'll see a thing called screen time. And then you have to enable the tracking so that it, to protect your privacy, so it enables the tracking. And then, one of the things I did was I set my downtime for 10 p.m. to 5 a.m., 5:15 a.m. Okay, I did set it for 6 a.m., but then I realized I'm up going to workouts, and I can't get my stuff to work. So I set the downtime. And it warns me 5 minutes before 10 o'clock that my phone is about to be out of, you won't be able to use it anymore. I put some exceptions in there, like text messaging and the phone, actually. So you could call me if there was an emergency, right? But other than that, everything's turned off. My work email, the Slack notifications, all of that turns off at 10 o'clock, okay? What's Slack? Never mind, don't worry about it.
Don't get it.
This week is not about causing pain and going on a diet. Okay, that's not what this is about. This week is about knowing what your habit and usage is. Okay? I don't necessarily want you to even change how you're limiting your children. So if you actually have any rules or limits on your children, we're not worried about that. We're talking about ourselves right now. This is about ourselves, not our kids. Okay? And so what can you do? But I think you should inform your kids so they know, and they know this is coming, right? You're modeling that, you're trying to figure this out, so you're doing this. And so, if you have kids, go ahead and tell them what you're doing, okay? And you may have to kind of play with this a little bit just to get it to what you did. For example, when I set it from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., that just messed me up in the morning, so I, went back in and changed it. This has been really helpful for me to see how much I'm using. But don't take it as gospel. For example, reading and reference could be some of the worst Reddit threads, and you could spend hours on Reddit, and that counts as reference, okay? So don't, it's more about the overall pieces here, okay? Now, we will get into some very practical, I will give a guide on here are some things that you can do to actually monitor and limit and do it site by site, and if you want to get into filters and all those things, I'm going to provide a guide to do that, but not this week, okay? That's not what we're doing, okay? And then the other thing this week is I want you to read chapters 1 through 3. So you should have read the introduction this past week, and now you're reading chapters 1 through 3, or hopefully if you're running behind, this is a great way to catch up